Okay, you're going to have to close your eyes again. All right, close your eyes. I want you to think about something that scares you. Really visualize it. Think about that thing, that monster, either literal or figurative, that frightens you most. Okay. Got it? You can open your eyes. All right, so here's what scares me the most at this exact moment in time. This. I'm about to try to transform your life at a TEDx conference, and I find that freaking scary. I'm not joking. And this is something I've wanted for a long time. It's on my bucket list. It is a life goal, and it's on my annual vision board. Yes, I am one of those people. And I didn't have to be here. I didn't have to apply to give this talk, and I certainly didn't have to say yes when they told me that I'd been given the honor to join these other 7 wonderful speakers. So why am I doing this to myself? Anybody know? I don't even know. How did I end up here? Honestly, I do know the answer. It makes me feel alive. I'd like to introduce you to someone who knows a little something about feeling alive. Meet little me. Little me. Little me is 5 years old. She has not yet attended school. She spends her days daydreaming, imagining, and creating. How wonderful is that? On summer nights, little me gets up in the middle of the night, walks to the window in her parents' house. She looks out over the quiet streets, the wind swaying in the trees, or the trees swaying in the wind, and the moon up above, and she just wonders. She wonders about what her neighbors are doing. She wonders about what people halfway across the world are doing. She wonders where she'll be one day, where she'll travel. The world is her oyster. Little me is an artist who does not fear the blank canvas. She's a writer who doesn't fear the blank page. She hasn't yet learned fear. She wouldn't be afraid to take the stage right now. Little me once gave an epic oration in the waiting room of the doctor's office. It was about the painful booster shots and the evil nurses who administered them to unsuspecting little girls. She got in trouble for that one. But little me had that thing I like to call the spark. And I believe all kids have the spark. It is what makes us brave. It is what makes us curious. It is what lets us leap into things that we never imagined, with no hesitation. So what happened? How did little me turn into this me who's kind of trembling up here still? Well, little me wanted to grow up. And she rationalized that she could daydream, imagine, and create, but also without rules and checkpoints and curfews. It seemed very, very like a good plan. And she'd probably be able to eat ice cream for supper every night. So there was really nothing that could go wrong. Except there was. Because you know the fault in that logic, right? When you grow up, your heart dies. It's one of my favorite quotes. But it's not true. Our hearts don't die. But I do believe that adulthood does take a little bit of our spark away. Now, the most recent Gallup poll asked people in 140 countries how their lives and work were going. 21% of employees say they're engaged at work worldwide. 33% of employees are thriving in their overall well-being. This was a poll done of 68,000 people. Now, in the US and Canada, though, the numbers were a little better, but as you can see, 41% of people say they worry every day, and 50% say they feel daily stress. Now, I have a question that I'd like you to ponder, a couple questions actually. Are you engaged with your work, your career? More importantly, are you engaged with your life? Do you have your spark? Now, for me, adult me, the answer to that question was no. And it stayed at no for a very long time. Because adult me had begun to avoid. I avoided the things that little me had jumped into so effortlessly. The blank page, the blank canvas. I certainly wasn't getting up and making any speeches in the doctor's office waiting room. Oh, I think that's probably a good thing. After college, I got the first of 2 dream jobs. I worked for several years as a writer-producer in local television. And then I transitioned to being a public school teacher. And I worked as an English teacher at the high school and the middle school level. Both of these career paths gave me wonderful things. I met great connections, lifelong friends. I had wonderful experiences, and I learned a lot. I wouldn't trade them for the world, and I gave them everything I had, my time, my energy. Now, in return, though, they gave me money, security, a retirement plan, and health insurance, which I think we all like. It's a good thing. I became pretty comfortable. But by my 10th year as a teacher and my 21st year in the workforce, I went from feeling comfortable to being in the comfort zone. Now, if you Google the words comfort zone, you will get a wide variety of images like this one. To be comfortable is great, right? But to be in the comfort zone does not have the best connotation. It indicates a stasis, and I think most psychologists will agree that when you find yourself in that comfort zone, you may get stuck. You're not learning, you're not growing. As a teacher, I was the first person to tell my students to leap out of their comfort zones. I wanted them to experience life and all the joys that it held. But sometimes we do not practice what we preach. But this is where I would put little me. Little me exists on the outside of the circle. And I believe that we all start that way, on the outside of the circle in the growth zone. We're trying things. We're leaping. We don't have fear. But once you find yourself in that comfort zone, you have to do what you can to get out, and sometimes something just kicks you out. Now, the thing that just knocked me out of my comfort zone was nothing special. It wasn't a big life event. But in the summer of 2013, about 10 years ago, I was home for summer vacation. I was teaching, and I was home, and I was cleaning off a hard drive of an old computer. Not remarkable for a day. And I found, though, on that old computer, a whole bunch of short stories that I had started writing and just left for dead. And I felt this flicker inside. it was my spark. I had forgotten how much I loved making up people, places, things, worlds. So something compelled me to jump into one of those stories and finish it. Well, I'm gonna back up because there is no way we would use the verb jumped at that point. I hesitated. I stared at the cursor blinking on the screen. I bit my nails a bit. It was kind of more like dipping my toe into a very cold, vast ocean. Nevertheless, I finished that story, probably badly, and then I finished another one. Then I began a third from scratch, from the blank page. And writing became very important to me at that point, because what it was doing was it was bringing my spark back to life. So every day I wrote. And when I went back to school that fall, when I went back to teaching, I got up every morning at 5 a.m. and I wrote. Okay, I hit snooze once. So at 5:09 every morning, I got up and I wrote. And I did that for several years. And I wrote short stories, long stories, plays, screenplays. I submitted work. I got published a bit. I went to writing conferences and met other writers. I won a couple contests. I also got rejected. I failed a bit. But I was feeling that spark, so I kept going. In 2017, I took a summer art class on a whim, and I remembered how much I loved getting my hands dirty. And that became the second piece of what I was missing. So these two passions for me personally, writing and art, fueled my spark in a way that I hadn't in a long time, and I felt alive for the first time in a long time. I still worked, I still had my job, but I was creating, and I was spending the hours outside of my work either making something, either stories or paintings or whatever, and looking for opportunities to make more things. And it felt good. So by early 2020, I had become a master at time management. I was writing in the mornings, I was painting in the evenings, I was working full-time, I was teaching adjunct at night, and I was trying to eat healthy, meal prep, go to the gym, and run. It was awesome. Not really. By March of 2020, when the world shut down, I was given a gift. And that gift was some time. Time to think about what it was that I wanted. And I painted every day. I wrote every day. I even started to prepare to direct my first short film because, hey, why not learn something new, add something new to my list of things. And then the world opened up again, as it did. And I realized that I had been participating in this really demented juggling act. I think other people saw it for a really long time because they would say things like, wow, you do a lot of things. But they would say it in this way that made me kind of feel crazy. So, by that point, I really had some thinking to do. So in the summer of 2021, I found myself sitting on a beach down in the Florida Keys. I was writing in my journal, and I was watching the palm trees sway in the breeze. And I just said, enough. I love you, my spark, but I got to make some kind of choices. So I made a decision, and it was a pretty brave one. It was much braver than facing the blank page or the blank canvas or even standing in this red circle. I decided that I was going to resign from my full-time teaching job. And the timing was monumentally bad. My husband had just started his own business, dream job for him. It was supposed to open in March of 2020. Yeah, pause for you guys to react to that. But the leap had to be made, and while timing maybe wasn't on my side, I did it anyway. And it's been about 18 months. And while it's been about 18 months of struggle and uncertainty sometimes, it really has been, and I'm being honest about this, the best 18 months of my life. Because there is beauty not just in the struggle, but in the places you will go if you are willing to make a leap. For me, I made the leap and I jumped in. Writing projects, art projects, film projects. I started curating my employment around my spark, and it has made me feel alive. Now, I don't think you have to quit your job to feel your spark. I really don't. But what I do think, and I really mean this, is that you need to check in with your own version of this person. Your own little me. Do you remember when you were brave? Do you remember when you were curious? Do you remember when the leap wasn't scary at all? And you don't have to listen to me. You can listen to Martha Beck. She's a life coach and author, and she says having fun is not a diversion from a successful life. It is the pathway to it. Let that sink in. Somewhere along the line, we were taught that fun wasn't supposed to be part of our lives, or at least our professional lives, that we had to maybe squeeze it in here and there. Now, as for me, I have now completed my TEDx talk. And you know what? I feel alive. Thank you.